you want some candy?
It was a Saturday when I walked back into our home and saw it. The living room was dominated by its presence. I almost screamed, "That's a baby grand piano! I just wanted a keyboard!"
Well,
Dad replied.
Mrs. Johnson promised to teach you. Just don't waste my money and keep those grades up.
If it was a ploy to make me excel in school, it worked. My love for music had been there since childhood. Once, a wonderful music teacher introduced me to the basics of music theory, and I was hooked. I grasped complex music and comprehended it at its core. I learned about harmonies, understanding why most pop music followed similar chord progressions. The combinations of rhythm and melody seemed infinite. The joyous moments with the piano were short-lived. The first sign of trouble happened when I was absent. Returning home one day, I found my dad inspecting the piano. "What's up, Dad? Is it broken?" I asked. Dad replied,
No, it's just that it was playing. Did you leave a recording on for practice?
I examined the piano. It seemed fine, perhaps needing a slight tuning. I was progressing well with my scales. The C scale bored me, but I loved the minor chords like G and A minor. On that piano, melodies resonated off the walls, amplifying the sound. Mrs. Johnson was impressed with my progress and enjoyed teaching me. I made her work for her money, unlike many of her other students. During this time, I did little else but play the piano. It became an obsession, my thing. I excelled at it, and as far as I knew, I was the best piano student on the planet. I already had a composition in mind to practice, Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C-sharp minor. I no longer listen to it, but if you haven't heard it yet, you absolutely must. The beginning is relatively simple, but as it progresses, the intensity builds, and the forceful keystrokes invoke a rare catharsis found in music. Yet, that's where the trouble really started. I'd play for hours, losing track of time. After practicing, my vision would alter, becoming blurry. I was so immersed in the music, starting right after school and playing until it was already dark. Drenched in sweat, I'd wake up from playing the piano as if I were angry. Candles would surround me. I thought it was my mom setting the mood for the classical piece, but she denied it. That wasn't the only occurrence. Sometimes I'd awaken to find different objects placed around the piano. Occasionally, candles, always 5, arranged in a perfect circle. Other times, an intricate knot, which my dad identified as a sailor's knot called a monkey fist. It was so elaborate that no novice could have made it. My mother grew concerned, but my father quickly reassured her.
I got it at an estate sale. It was a good deal and the kid loves it. Look, I'll find out what I can.
When I returned from school one day, Dad was with another person. He seemed like an expert, but not an academic. Dressed in all black, he reminded me of someone who might be a huge fan of heavy metal music. "This was the gem of the sale. How did I miss this beauty?" the expert said.
Well, you can't have everything. What did you get?
Dad replied. "I acquired the rope, candles, and the note." My dad and I exchanged looks. "What note?" I asked. "The note left for the media. You do know this was found at the crime scene." My mom nearly fainted. I felt my heart stop. I closed my eyes and could vividly imagine the scene. I saw a person bound with a mask over their head. Candles were lit, and then I witnessed a man pounding furiously at the piano. It was like a bizarre religious service where each motion was a manifestation for some unknown deity or worse, the devil. I opened my eyes as if the daylight would erase the ghastly scene. The expert spoke again. "The spirit of the murderer is here. He departed this life by suicide. He aims to manifest himself here. I'll obtain proof." We recounted what had occurred before. My dad swore he didn't know anything about this. Bragging about the great deal he got didn't sound so impressive at this point. The expert continued. "To capture the spirit, I want to set up mirrors to amplify its energy. Then I can expel him from here forever. But first, I need to record it on camera. As the sun set and the experiment commenced with mirrors placed on the walls, the expert instructed me to start playing. I had a feeling Mrs. Johnson wouldn't be pleased that my piano was being used to summon an evil spirit. Shortly after starting the composition, something horrific unfolded. I can't articulate the emotions of that moment. But if you've ever felt a combination of a sinking stomach when you're in trouble and goosebumps on your neck, that's what it felt like. No scientist could ever measure that accurately. But that was just the beginning. I heard footsteps descending the staircase, growing louder with each step. Then an evil laughter echoed through the room. I ceased playing. Looking into the mirror, I could see the figure of the man. It dawned on me that I had envisioned him earlier, in the act of his earlier murder. I stood there frozen, watching as the expert began to interact with the entity, filming its approach. "Known as Alex Malcor, heed our pleas," the expert said. I glanced at the expert. Talking nicely to a murderous spirit? Come on, man, don't you have a better plan? The spirit locked eyes with the expert, flashing a smile signifying its sinister intentions. It approached the expert, lifting him by the neck and slowly choking the life out of him. My dad attempted to intervene and help. I urged my mom to leave. The expert managed to whisper, "Break the mirrors!" While my dad and the expert grappled with the spirit, I smashed all the mirrors. I didn't see how this would stop it, but it seemed to be working. The spirit grew weaker. I extinguished the candles and shattered every last mirror. The spirit's energy dwindled until it was no more. The police were cooperative when they arrived. An officer briefed the responding officers about the case of Alex Malcor. An ambulance took the expert's body to the coroner's office. The death certificate stated a heart attack. I called Mrs. Johnson, politely explaining that I wouldn't be continuing lessons. Dad and I took the piano to the backyard and used it for firewood that winter. We haven't spoken about the piano since.